Welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and now begin the Full Education Committee. I'd like to welcome everyone here today. We've had a little difficulty in the last one with our electronic board, but we are being told it's working right now. So let's test it out. Would the clerk please put the roll on the board, or members, make sure you signed in. And then, Madam Clerk, are we ready to put our vote? Excuse me, our roll call. There we go. Wow, full house. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 members present. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. It's nice to have a full committee. Representative Raper, welcome back. We're so glad to have you here. Had successful surgery and back a lot sooner than you anticipated, and we anticipated. This is great. Thank you. Would you like to say a few words? Sure. You're recognized.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, whichever it is, so I get lost in time up here. But I did want to say thank you to a number of people, my constituents, also people around the state of Tennessee that I just get messages from all the time that say they are praying for me. The legislature has been wonderful to me, contacting me daily, numbers of them. Our leadership here has been behind me every way coming and going, and I give the most credit and honor to God. I give him all the glory. He has just worked miracles in my life, and I'm not worthy of even deserving those. So he's done it on his own accord, because I can't do anything to earn his blessing. So thank you very much, and I love all of you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So glad to have you back. Why don't we open up with Representative Mayberry? Would you open up with the word of prayer? Thank you.
Let's pray. Father, today we thank you for this marvelous day. We thank you for what you're doing right now at the Capitol. Lord, we just thank you for those who are reading the Bible throughout this day outside. We ask you bless everyone who's been a part of that endeavor. Lord, we pray right now for our teachers, the staff in schools. We pray for administrators, the students, Lord. And we pray for these community members, Lord. I thank you for giving us wisdom. I think your word says in Proverbs, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom and get understanding in all that you do. Lord, we thank you for wisdom from on high and guiding us and directing us on how to lead here in the state, Lord God. I thank you for it. And Lord, we praise you for Chairman Kevin Raper, Lord God, and what you've done in his life. We just thank you for that you've restored his health and healed his wounds, as your word declares, Lord God. Be with us today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, anybody have any recognition or announcement? Chairman Sapicki? Your record. Waiting for the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a shadow today, a junior from Columbia Academy, Jay Coleman. Jay, we stand up and let's welcome you.
Members, anyone else need recognition? Okay, if not, okay, members and the audience, if you would bear with me, we've got a little housekeeping to begin with, members. We have 55 bills left on our full education calendar. We are in here till 1:30, so we have 2.5 hours. We will come back in here tomorrow at 3:30. And we will continue until we finish. We are to close down the Education Full Committee this week, because we've got about 3 weeks after this in April, and we've got to get our bills to finance and to the other committees flowing through. So reason I say that, let's vet each bill, ask all the questions you want, but let's keep it concise and to the point. So we won't have to be in here to midnight tomorrow night. Let's get as many bills as we can, move forward or dealt with appropriately. So we'll hold us to the same time constraints. When you have a question, I'll let you ask one question, one follow-up, then I move on to the next person. And if no one else is on the list and you do have another question, I'll come back to you. But we'll move quite promptly. Also, there's a lot of bills that have amendments, and since this is our last committee today through tomorrow, considered as one committee, one hearing, we have a lot of untimely filed amendments. Usually we wait to the next week, but I will entertain a motion to add here the untimely amendment, and we'll be going through that process. So just work with me and follow me. I got two smart people on both sides of me that help me keep that in order, and I appreciate that. Also, if you notice too, on the front row, we now have reserved seats. The front row is reserved for those who are carrying the bills, are members only. Members that are actually carrying the bills, they're in here. We'll try to get to y'all promptly. Anything I'm leaving out right now? Anything that needs to be considered before we take off? Members, I'm going to hand the gavel quickly to Chairman Sapicki. I'm going to make a motion to see if you'd like to entertain this. Sapicki, you want to just explain what we're trying to do?
Members, number 55 on your calendar, we have to get a confirmation out of this committee ASAP. It is for the Standards Recommendation Committee for English Language Arts. Her name is Annie Dockery. It's House Joint Resolution 198. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? I have a motion and a second. Chairman White, you are in position. Can you give a brief explanation of this person, please?
I can. Committee, this is Miss Annie Dockery. She cannot be here. She hasn't been able to be here since we started the confirmations. She had a health procedure that she is not able to make it to Nashville. But let me give you this information. If it be the will of the committee, we'll go ahead and confirm Miss Dockery. She's a 2020 graduate of the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga. Annie began her teaching career at Hardin Valley Academy in Knoxville, where she taught 9th grade college prep and honors English. While there, she also taught 10th grade CP English and was involved in Knoxville's 865 Academy, which works with Ford's Next Generation Learning to prepare students for life after graduation, whether that's college preparation or career readiness. She then joined the Maryville City Schools, where she has taught 9th grade CP and honors English. This school year, she transitioned to 8th grade CP English, so she has experience teaching English at both the high school and middle school levels. And with that, committee, I'd like to make a motion that Miss Annie Dockery be confirmed for the Standards Recommendation Committee in English Language Arts.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Are there any
Question on
questions?
the bill.
Questions being called without objection? Madam Clerk, take the vote, please. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 19 ayes and 0 nays.
House Joint Resolution 198, the confirmation of Annie Dockery, has been confirmed, set on the calendar and rules.
Thank you, committee, and Chairman Sapicki for that. Go ahead and move that forward. Members, that brings us, we're going to, we got a couple that we got to skip around, but pretty much we're going to stay in order. But we're at item number 1, House Bill 085 by Chairman Sapicki. You have a motion and a second. Chairman Sapicki, do you have any amendments on this bill?
Amendment 3853.
Second.
We got a motion second on amendment 3853. Is it right, rewrite the bill or just adding?
Rewrites the bill.
Any objection to adding the amendment to the bill for proper discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The bill is properly amended. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is dealing with recess in elementary. Currently, it is mandated at 15 minutes a day, 130 minutes a week of recess. This bill is amending this to be 40 minutes a day. That's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman. I know we have people who want to speak on this to be expedited. I'd like to make a motion to go out of session to hear the testimony to allow the members to ask questions.
Any objection? We do have a couple that wanted to speak on this. Any objection going out of session? Hearing none, we are out of session. We have Rachel Bush, Morgan Gardner, Catherine Truman, and Robert Eby. And he's opposed. Okay. And Mr. Robert Gowan, if also come up and have a seat, that would have everybody. In consideration of time, Rachel Bush, Morgan Gardner, Catherine Truman, and Robert Eby. I think you're all speaking on the same subject. So if you could pick out a spokesperson, let me give you 3 minutes in total. And then if there's any questions from the committee, we can go further than that. So we will begin. And then Mr. Gowan, you have a full 2 minutes by yourself. So with that, who would like, of the four of you would like to start the conversation? Mr. Eby? Mr. Eby, you are recognized. Please state your name and position for the AV record, and we'll turn your mic on for you.
Bob Eby. And even though I am the chairman of the State Board of Education, unless the board takes action, I can't represent it. So I'm here as a citizen of Roane County today. I come to you before you in support of Representative Spicky's bill. If it weren't for physical activity, I don't feel I'd be here today. Both my father and my younger brother passed of heart attacks. Tests have shown a strong heart for me. I firmly believe this is because of the activity and exercise program I've had for my 72 years. Tennessee currently ranks 45th in childhood obesity at 38.5%. Data indicates that children spend approximately 7.7 hours of their waking day being sedentary. The potential population health impact of sedentary behavior is substantial. To make a difference, we must start early by encouraging lots of safe and unstructured movement and play like recess does. The key is that people who are active as children will be active as teenagers and adults. International study shows when children are playing outdoors, they're having self-directed learning time and learning structuring of sequence. That in itself is preparing the children for when they have to sit down and focus on something else. It's also interesting to note that one area TCAPS test is how well students can structure sequences, a benefit of recess. 2013 study suggests that mathematics and reading are the academic topics that are most influenced by physical activity. The lack of physical activity is linked to approximately $117 billion annual healthcare cost. Referring to an old Fram oil filter ad, you can pay me now or pay me more later. Some people may state that recess is totally unstructured time and ask how we assure that kids will use this time to run around, burn calories, and refresh their minds. Challenges schools to do what Dr. Shirley Holt Hill, former National Phys Ed Teacher of the Year, did for her school in Oak Ridge. The school told their students they could have all the recess time as free time as long as they completed one lap around the 8th mile track first. Kids soon figured on their own that they had more free time if they ran around that track, or they could still walk. Either way, they were moving, and that's the key to gaining all the benefits we've talked about today. Please say yes to recess. It can save lives and improve academics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eby. Would any of our ladies, Ms. Bush, Ms. Gardner, Ms. Truman, like to say something, recognize y'all at this point before we go to Mr. Gowan? You're recognized. Name
Hi.
for the record.
Morgan Garner, say yes to recess. The foundations of social development and lifelong success are built on the playground. State law requires a minimum of 15 minutes for elementary age children per day, yet the labor law is a 30-minute break for every 6 hours. Why are we holding our children to a higher standard than we hold ourselves? Our county requires an uninterrupted 90-minute block of reading for K through 2. Teachers take multiple brain breaks throughout the day because the children are not engaged. More instructional time does not equal more learning. Unstructured play has a distinct role, as does structured play. PE and recess serve different but equally important roles, and even the Tennessee Code states that PE and recess are different and one shall not replace the other. PE focuses on skill development, fitness, learning to work as a team, taking instruction, and recess teaches soft skills, conflict resolution, and emotional regulation. Both are necessary. Both cater to different aspects of a child's development. It's time to prioritize our children's developmental needs, and recess is the first step.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have some members who want to ask questions. We can come back to you. May ask that. Let's go ahead and go to Mr. Gowan. He also has a point of view. We will recognize you now for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Robert Gowan, and I'm here today representing two clients, the Coalition of Large School Systems and the Tennessee Music Education Association. I'm also representing myself. I'm a parent of 3 kids, and all of them have attended Metro Public Schools. 2 are still enrolled. My clients and I are concerned about House Bill 85 because it would eliminate several hours of valuable instruction time every week. The bill would require at least 2 hours and 5 minutes each week an additional recess, along with an additional 50 minutes each week for travel time to and from the playground. And I'll be happy to walk through the math behind that if you want to later. We recognize the benefits of physical activity. And I personally agree with the recommendation from the American Academy of Pediatrics that children should engage in at least 60 minutes of physical activity a day. Completely agree. However, it's important to remember that not all of this activity needs to take place during school hours. My children have participated in all kinds of extracurricular activities that often involve vigorous physical activity like volleyball, cross-country running, and gymnastics. Students, teachers, and schools and school districts are now all graded based on academic performance. We are concerned that reducing instructional time by almost 3 hours each week will result in less time to provide necessary interventions for struggling students, less time for supporting students with special needs, less time for core subjects like reading and math, and fewer opportunities for music and visual arts. Thank you again for letting me testify, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
Thank you. With that before us, committee, while we're out in recess, we have a few people wanting to ask questions. Then we'll start with Representative McKenzie. Let's keep your questions right down so we can move forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is one of those tough bills because what I don't want is unintended consequences. And I heard you all say, and someone just said to me, if someone struggles with reading, tripling the time with reading is probably not going to help. You can probably double the time. So my concern is where the time will come from. I wholeheartedly support more time in recess. So it's good to see you, Mr. Eby. I'll ask you this question with your affiliation with the state board. Do we have any guarantees that this won't come from things like music and art? You know, my son played the tuba and played basketball, right? So it's imperative that arts and our music programs, they also help with brain development. So can we say that we're not going to take these from these programs that sometimes are marginalized?
Mr. Eby.
Thank you. I can answer that, but we also, Rachel would like to answer that. But let me just say this, is that there's 6.5 hours a day in a school day. Of that, the state board and the department recommend 120 minutes a day for English language arts, 90 minutes a day mathematics, 30 minutes for lunch, 30 for recess, 60 for special area classes, which are the arts that you're talking about. That's 330 minutes. We're talking here, there's another 60 minutes to go. And the chairman, I think, is talking about how many minutes a day extra now, 10 minutes a day extra or something like that. There's time to do that. I'll turn it over to Ms. Rachel.
You're recognized.
Oh, there we go. So we looked into that. The last thing we want to do is touch the arts and music. We personally I'm an art teacher. So the last thing I want to do is touch arts and music. We've looked into that and we've discovered that teachers require 150 minutes of prep time. And a lot of that time comes from specials. So we don't feel the specials will be touched. We hope that a county would not choose to touch the arts to affect this mandate.
Mr. Eby, one follow-up.
I would also like to mention that Dr. Shirley Holt Hale has worked with many districts to work the time in so that doesn't affect that. And she said she'd be more than willing to work. Her email address is holthale@aol.com.
Okay, let's go to Representative Hakeem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here very much. In regards to time devoted to education, not recess, I'm asking a question. Are we taking away from that necessary piece? Now, what I'm getting at is my understanding from teachers, they're not only dealing with teaching the children, but the tests they have to prepare for and other things. And I guess I'm trying to understand what studies, is there a study that the two sides can agree on as far as being consistent or real. And how much time are we asking teachers to contribute more if more time is going to recess?
Okay, I'm going to let is it Ms. Gardner?
Truman,
Ms. Truman, recognize you for that response.
thank you. That is an,
And if you will, say your full name so everybody at home knows who's talking.
my name is Catherine Truman with Say Yes to Recess. That is a great question. And we set out to ask that same question when we began this journey 3 years ago. And everything we've done has been data driven. We wanted to stand on research alone, and we found an ample amount of research that support this, but the main study that we found supports what you were discussing is called the LINK Project, LIINK. It's out of TCU, Texas Christian University. Dr. Debbie Ray, a kinesiology professor, studied the school model in Finland, which implements 60 minutes of physical activity a day throughout the learning periods. And she brought it back, implemented it here in all different types of schools, charter, private, public schools. She followed these students for 10 years, and this is the data that we pull from mainly at this time. They found the teachers gained back 2 hours of instructional time because they were doing less redirection. The children were more emotionally and physically regulated and ready to learn. The learning, the retention increased, test scores increased within 1 year by high amounts, I will say. Nurse visits went down, obesity decreased, BMI decreased. So the data is there, and we'd be happy to provide that at any time.
Okay, do you have a follow-up?
Yes. I apologize. I can't remember.
Mr. Gowan?
Yes, Gallo. Oh, yes, sir.
You recognize Mr. Gowan?
Same question?
Yes, sir.
There are a lot of, if you're asking studies about music and its impact on academic performance, there have been multiple studies over the years that show that students who participate in music, they do better academically, particularly kids from poor backgrounds, disadvantaged kids. And they do better on standardized tests. They do make higher scores on the SAT. They're more likely to go to college and more likely to graduate high school. But there have been multiple studies over the years showing that. And I'll just tell you, it's not a study, but it's my kids. I graduated near the middle, close to the bottom of my high school class. Both of my kids are graduated, and will graduate near the top of their class. The thing that was different, so much different about their education experience was participating in music. Before this bill came up, I mean, my son's taking classes that I'd never heard of, math classes I'd never heard of. And I asked him how he was doing so well in those classes because I don't help him and he doesn't have a tutor. He told me that when he started playing the violin, his mind started working differently. Hard math equations made sense. So it's not a study. It's my personal experience, but I can tell you I'm around a lot of parents whose kids are also involved in music. They all say the same thing.
Thank you. Chairman Spickey, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I almost gave you a promotion to speaker there for a second. And whoever wants to answer this question, are you aware of any kind of data that supports getting the children more recess outside, being able to interact with their peers? Do we see a reduction of discipline problems in the classroom? Do we see better social emotional competencies from the students? Do we see better academic performance from the students? And anybody can answer that question if they'd like.
Who'd like to take Ms. Gardner? Who you want to take that?
Bush, yeah.
Bush, okay. You're recognized.
Thanks. As far as specific studies, I would love to give you the whole notebook of studies that I have. I'm a professor at Austin Peay State University, and I spoke with a College of Education, and I asked them this very question. And in one email, I got over 60 responses of studies that prove recess not only helps test scores, but it helps interaction with their peers, problem solving, soft skills that we're trying to teach. Besides the LINK project that was just mentioned, there's several other studies that prove recess helps music. Recess helps the humanities. So yes, there's several studies that point to it. If you would like for me to provide those to you.
Okay. You had a follow-up.
Just for clarification, did you say 16 or 60?
60.
60, thank you.
Thank you. Let's go now to Representative Mayberry.
It does my heart happy to see you all here today. For those who don't know, I know specifically Rachel Morgan. I first met with you, I believe, in 2023, and you came to me about wanting more recess in Montgomery County in our schools. For those who don't know, I'm on the school board there. And we talked about it, a plan on how we can make that happen, ultimately even to coming to this day here. And now we're all here together, and I wasn't even planning on running at that time. So it just makes my heart happy to see you here today. In Montgomery County, I want you to talk about that process, what happened, where we were time-wise of recess a day, where we've gone to now, and the effects that maybe that's happened in Montgomery County. So either Rachel Morgan, whomever.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So you're correct. Yeah, it is. We're thrilled to be at this point. We started this journey in our county 3 years ago. And our county in Montgomery County has 27 elementary schools, which is a lot. So practically, you're talking about a lot. And they were giving about 20 minutes, so 5 minutes above the required. But what we discovered is that our kids were only getting about 10 to 12 when you talk about transition time and taking away discipline, which both are against the current law. So we went to the school board. We met with several administrators to work with them, not against them. And they were very receptive, and they were able to bump recess from 15 minutes to 30 minutes in Montgomery County. We were very happy with that, but it led us to say 30 minutes still isn't enough. They still need more when you talk about transition times and things like that. And we have seen an uptick in a positive response from our county.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just follow up. And again, thank you. Yeah, so we've gone to 30. I can tell you that my 9-year-old was very happy about that. And it's definitely, I have seen an impact within our district in a very positive way to think through that kids now don't have to sit for that amount of time without being able to break up the time throughout the day to have that recess opportunities. It's going to allow them to receive the information and process it better. So I appreciate all you've done, all you are doing, and I'm supporting this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, we have a couple more that want to talk on it, and I'm going to try to get us back out of session by 11:40. So, but I want to recognize Representative Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. I'm gonna talk for an hour, Mr. Chair, just to let you know.
And I'm going to cut you off.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for not interrupting my lunch like you normally do, but that's a whole nother story. Mr. Gowan, my question is really for you. We kind of talked about this. From what I'm getting from most of the school districts who are now engaged with this bill, the consensus seems to be everyone is willing to work with 30 minutes of recess, that they're willing to, that they can make their schedule work for 30 minutes. However, they cannot make it work for the 40 minutes. What would you say from a legislative perspective would we need to do to help you all be able to meet the 40 minutes in the bill? In other words, I know that from up here, we give schools a lot to do. We give them a lot of requirements. So sometimes I think that, and I think my colleague from Lauderdale County even said it before, that we sometimes have to go back and look at what are we asking our educators to do and what can we relook at and see if it's really needed. So from your perspective, just real quick, is it something that we could look at to make it the 40 minutes work?
Thank you for that
Mr. Gowan?
question. And want to bring up one thing I talked to Representative Hurd about. He already has a district doing 40 minutes. It's not impossible, but school districts are different. Every school district is different. It's one of the reasons we have a lot of local control. We adjust policies for what we are dealing with, type of students that we have. I'm not going to tell you that you have to extend the school day. Although if there are many more things that are added that require more time, we're going to have to start talking about that. If it were 30 minutes, I mean, school districts that I represent and other school districts I've heard from, if it were 30 minutes, that would be a little bit easier to do one recess period. I know there's been talk about having two 20-minute recess periods, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. I'll say if we have to do that, that's essentially going to be cutting 30 minutes, the last 30 minutes of the day out. So I don't know if that's answering your question, but I'm not going to tell you that you would have to extend the school day, although I would be completely in favor of that, just
Thank you.
based on the number of parents who, like me, pay for aftercare.
Representative Glenn, that answer, you have a follow-up?
I think it did. I'm not sure if extending the school day would work. I mean, we'd probably get beat down for that, but taking that out of the equation, it still goes back to there are some things that we would need to do from this level to kind of relook at what we're requiring school districts to do. Can we carve off some things and get to the 40 minutes of recess? If my colleague from Lauderdale County has a school that's doing that, then that means it's doable. We don't know what the model is to how they're doing it. But again, we go back to, we would have to look at what we're asking you all to do to get to that 40 minutes is what.
Well, I'm reluctant to say you could cut back on the amount of time that's recommended for reading, especially because I'm the father of a third grader who's about to take the TCAPs for the first time. I wouldn't ask you to do anything that reduce the time for instruction of anything. And that's what I'm advocating for, preserving the amount of instruction time that we currently have.
Thank you. I'm going to go, we've got a couple more. I'm going to go to Representative Raper, you're recognized, and then we've got two more, then we'll go back out of session. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be as brief as possible. First of all, I want to say to both sides there are a lot of things I agree with, and so many things. I see the benefits but also I want to just sort of clarify, as a former teacher and principal of 34 years, I want to clarify on one point, and we're talking about taking away instructional time. Well, I'll give you just a slightly different point of view, that right now we are short on instructional time. Right now, as we speak, and I will give you an example. The most of the state right now is, and I'm talking about K through 6. We're on a plan where we do an hour and a half of mandated ELA. We're on an hour and a half mandated of mathematics. So then when it comes to science, social studies, the arts, PE, and so on, then what it gets down to with science and social study is a lot of the state currently is doing, we don't have enough time. So what we're doing in the afternoons is we're giving one day maybe an hour to science, and then alternate, and then the next day we'll do an hour of social studies, and we're never getting there. We're never arriving because they are tested over these things. So we got a shortened amount of time when it comes to science and social studies. But all I wanted to do, I don't have a question for any of you. I just want to say I see both sides of this point of view, and I just wanted to clarify to you that we are currently in a shortage of instructional time. So I'm supportive of the bill, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Representative Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I wanted to kind of briefly discuss, Mr. McGowan, you mentioned that a school in my district's already doing this. And I just want to reiterate that school is one of the higher achieving in my district and one of the higher achieving in the state. And they're already doing the 40 minutes without sacrificing the art and music and things. I talked to the administration and asked them about that. So it really made sense as I visited them, and they were telling me, actually, the story was I read to a 4th grade class, and I was going to be their hero and tell them it was the Friday after we voted on this in subcommittee. I said, man, we got a bill going through you all are going to like. I said, how many minutes of recess do you all get? One little student spoke up, said 40 minutes. I was like, what? I mean, I was fixing to give you good news. So, as I did that, and then I visited with the administration, they told me kind of how they work things. And again, higher achieving, lower discipline. So I appreciate y'all being here. I do share the concerns, but I do think it's possible for districts to work this out and see higher achieving with some lower discipline problems. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we're going to let Representative Reeves close us out on this final question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I want to thank y'all for being here. I know you've worked very hard, and I will note that one of my very good friends and fellow Williamson Countyans, Kimberly Calcote, is part of your group. And I will say I've got a 9-year-old boy as well, and he doesn't pay attention to a thing I do, but he is keyed in on this bill. So he wants to know the results. Let me ask you a real quick question, and anybody can answer on the panel. What was recess 10, 20 years ago? Have we lost recess time? And I'll leave it there.
Anybody want to take that on? Yes, ma'am. You're recognized. Say your name again.
Rachel Bush. Thank you. Yes, Kimberly's been great. We have lost. So back in 2017, we changed the bill. So it was 45 minutes. It was 3:15 for kindergarten and 2:20 for the rest, 1st through 5. So then they changed it to 130 minutes of physical activity a week, which still stands. So we have gone backwards. And at the same time, the Tom Cronin Act was passed, which is 2 30-minute PEs. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you also very much for being here and helping the committee as we talk about this and work through. Thank you. We're now back in session. We're now back in session. Thank y'all. I'll go back to our chair sponsor, our sponsor of the bill, and see if there's anyone else has a question.
I renew my motion.
Motion been renewed. Representative Raper?
I would like to call the question, please.
Question been called. Any objection to the question? Okay, members, we're on House Bill 0085. The question's been called. Any objection? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, would you please put the vote on the board? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 17 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you very much. HB 0085 moves out to calendar and rules. Thank you very much for that discussion. Members, now going to item number 2, House Bill 919.
Second.
Motion second on Chairman Sapinki. I believe that's your bill.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
You're recognized.
We have 2 amendments.
You have 2 amendments.
First one rewrites. It's 005659.
Second.
You got a motion second on it, rewrites bill. Any objection to adding it to the bill for proper consideration? Hearing no objection. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Your amendment's now in the bill. Do you have another amendment?
I believe it's 005654.
Second.
And what does this amendment do?
This one adds something to the bill I can explain for the committee.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and explain it before we add it to the bill?
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, this adds on to the appointments of the bill. We have some very prominent individuals that support our colleges and universities, but some of them live outside the state of Tennessee. This amendment allows the governor or the speakers to choose people that have a significant contribution to those colleges and universities or boards that they'd be appointed to, but they may live outside the state. That's all it does.
Okay, with that explanation, members, any question of the sponsor on the amendment? Representative King?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Sapicki, is there a limit as to the number of people who would live outside of the state? Or, we could wind up with all of them from outside the state?
Chairman Spicky?
I'm reading real quick. In state. Right. Of the 11 voting members, 8 of them would have to reside inside the state of Tennessee
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
or outside.
Further questions are on Amendment 5654. Any objection to the question being called on the amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay. For Amendment 5654, all those in favor of adding the amendment to the bill, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, your bill is fully amended, Chairman Spicky.
And with the permission, Mr. Chairman, we roll those into one amendment as we move forward.
Legal said that is good. We will.
Thank you. Members, I'm going to be very brief on this bill. I'm just going to tell you what the bill does. It adds 2 members to our Tennessee Board of Regents, our State University Board of Trustees, and our University Board of Tennessee Trustees. And I'm going to just tell you what it does very simply. It adds 2 members to the Tennessee Board of Regents. It takes it from 19 to 21 members. Each one of those new appointments, one will be appointed by the Speaker of the House, one will be appointed by the Lieutenant Governor. And then there'll be 2 appointments that each one of the Speaker and Lieutenant Governor will get of the members of those boards that are cycling off when they come up. They'll get actually 2 appointments. On the State University Board of Trustees, it'll go from 10 members to 12 members. Same thing happens. The speakers get an additional 1 for each of them. And then of the next ones that are cycling off, they will each pick one of those that come off, and they will make those appointments also. And then for the University Tennessee Board of Trustees, it will go from 12 members to 14 members. Same process. Each of them get 1 more pick, and then the next 2 members that cycle off, the speakers will pick up those appointments. That's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, members, that explanation from Chairman Sapicki on 919. Questions? Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just trying to understand, is it simply to allow the legislature to have a seat and or say on the bill? Is this coming from a place that we're not happy with a current makeup across the state through the Board of Regents and the LGIs and the UT system? Just trying to figure out what's the driver for having these additional processes.
Chairman speaking.
That's a great question. Over the last few years, we have put more of a flavor of these picks into these boards across the state of Tennessee by the General Assembly, making sure that we have some say into these boards. And all this does is it does not give the speakers any type of majority vote. It just allows the General Assembly to have some say into these boards.
That answer your question, sir? Okay. Anyone else? Representative Slater?
Question on the bill.
Question been called. Any objection to the question? We're on House Bill 919. Hearing no objection. All those in favor of voting on the bill 919 indicate by saying aye. Right. Okay, let's get the clerk to put this on the board. Everyone vote? Wants to vote? Madam Clerk, would you call the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 15 ayes, 1 nay, and 3 present not voting.
Thank you. House Bill 919 moves out to GovOps. Thank you. Let's go to item number 3, House Bill 377 by Leader Zachary. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee and members. Mr. Chairman, I do have an amendment drafting code 5149.
5149 is the amendment. Does it rewrite the bill?
It makes the bill. Yes, sir.
It makes the bill. Members, any objection to add the amendment for proper discussion? Hear no objection. All those in favor of adding amendment 5149 to House Bill 377 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Members, this bill simply prohibits a person from being excluded from participating in, being denied the benefits of, or being subjected to discrimination by an institution or any program or activity at an institution on the basis of race, color, ethnicity, or national origin. It also prohibits financial aid, scholarships, award, or amounts from being solely based on race, color, ethnicity, or national origin. This is specifically related to admissions and scholarships, and the language you see before you is a collaboration between TBR, UT, Vandy, MTSU, and many others. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, with that explanation before us, I'm going to recognize Representative Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor, exactly who's being excluded right now from these institutions?
You recognize.
Great question. Thank you for asking. So I actually met with a lady regarding this bill yesterday that she moved to Tennessee because she came to the University of Tennessee. She applied to Georgia. I know this is out of state, but it's just an example that was yesterday. She applied for admission to Georgia and she was denied. She was told she was denied because she was a white female. And so then she had to apply to other institutions and came to the University of Tennessee. So people within the community, people around the country being denied services or being denied admission to a college based on the quotas that are currently there today.
Follow up, Representative Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These grants or whatever may be set aside for, students based on race, color, ethnicity. What happens to that particular bucket of money? I say that because when I was in school, I actually got a scholarship, a Booker T. Washington scholarship to attend a college. That scholarship was specifically for Black students who were kind of medium of the line students. So those kind of scholarships and grants and things like that, what happens to that bucket of money that is set aside for those students?
You recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that was actually brought up by one of the universities. And that's why if you look in section 1 of the bill, D, the last sentence, it specifically says that the award cannot be solely based on a student's race, ethnicity, or national origin. So in terms of scholarships that are not based solely on that, then the university will make decisions based on the funding amount that was designated for that. That would be up to each individual university.
We only get to
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And mine was similarly aligned. But if there's, if someone made a $5 million donation to the University of Tennessee for students that are Native American, and that money's there, it's in its endowment, it's been there since the 40s, are you saying now that they will have to give back, and it's for Native American students to attend the University of Tennessee at Knoxville? So you're saying that the university will not have to figure out what the cumulative value of that since 1940 to now and give that money back to the originating entity? And if so, what's the timeline for that happening?
Leader Zachary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm saying that would be a discussion between the university and those donors and those designated funds. This bill specifically speaks to admissions and scholarships and sets the precedent moving forward. And again, this is all generated and this has all come about because of the Supreme Court case in June of 2023 of Students of Fair Admission v. Harvard.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this bill is wrought with misnomers. This I don't know what this bill is doing and why it's doing it, but to have we had a similar situation. Someone said I was denied admission because I'm white, and the state university dug into that situation. 85-year-old in Colorado that had nothing to do with applying. When we get these unfounded things, like you say, I got a call yesterday, and you're saying that you're basing a bill on people There's no evidence. I've asked my university, has this happened? Has anyone ever? And that's not, and I'm sure the University of Georgia will say the same thing. Everything is merit-based. Everything is merit-based. All the folks who are attending these universities are qualified. So that's my concern with this, that it doesn't come from a basis. So I guess what I'm going to ask again is, this bill restricts our universities from awarding funds solely basis on race, sex, national origin, all of those things. So why would we not want to return those funds post haste if this is a Supreme Court decision?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, this bill ensures that students are judged on academic achievement based on their character, based on community service, based on leadership, and in terms of micromanaging the actual donor dollars and what they're to do with that. That's between the university, the designated funds. There's so much that goes into that. This simply says that a student should be judged on their merit. And to your point, if that's not being done, then this doesn't impact anything that's going on in these universities. We're just putting this forward to ensure that every student is judged individually based on their character, based on their academic achievement, based on their merit, based on their community service. And again, the language that you see in front of you was a collaboration between the University of Tennessee and our community, TBRs, Vandy, MTSU, and many others.
Thank you. Chairman Spickey?
Question on the bill. Withdraw.
Okay, it's withdrawn. It's withdrawn. Representative Hakeem, you're next on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, could I ask that we go out of session? For a couple of questions for the attorney, if I could.
Any objection? We're out of session. You may ask your question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Attorney, my reading of this bill is essentially to dismantle any vestiges of affirmative action, DEI, for a metric that has not been stated by the board chair. And I'm trying to see how this would balance with our Constitution, with affirmative action. I mean, it's like stripping away any progress that's been made when it comes to who's available. I mean, who can apply for these grants and so forth. And could you give me some insight on that?
Okay, let me see if legal can address that. Legal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Robertson, Legal Services. Could you bring more clarification on to your question?
Okay.
Representative, you're recognized.
Does this bill remove any parts of affirmative action or DEA requirements? DEI, I'm sorry. And is there anything, when I say anything in place, that includes everyone? Meaning, does this afford the opportunity for anyone to be able to get these scholarships and so forth? And I don't know what metric that would be used to determine who gets those grants or scholarships.
There are several different subsections of it, but I believe subsection D is the main part of the bill as amended. It provides that an institution shall not consider an applicant's race, color, ethnicity, or national origin in determining whether the applicant qualifies for admission to the institution or for scholarships or financial aid offered by the institution. Institutions shall not use aggregated data to develop admissions or student population quotas based on race, color, ethnicity, or national origin, or use any such data in making admissions decisions. An institution is not prohibited from awarding different scholarships to students or the same scholarships to students in different amounts, so long as the scholarship awarded or the scholarship amount awarded is not solely based on the student's race, color, ethnicity, or national origin. So moving forward, if this bill passes as amended, an institution would have to adhere to these standards.
That answer your question, sir? Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reading some of this additional material here, says this bill prohibits an institution from revealing or making known to any admissions or financial aid officers data concerning the race, color, ethnicity. And in the next paragraph, it says this bill establishes a private cause act against an institution that violates this mandate. And my reading of that is that, firstly, you can't collect any material on who's getting the scholarships, and then if you bring that information forward, basically you can be sued or removed from your position.
Illegal? That was removed from that amendment.
Subsection F provides that an individual who believes that a violation of this section has occurred may seek injunctive or declaratory relief and accord a competent jurisdiction pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 13121. And as I stated previously, that it provides as well in subsection D that institutions shall not use aggregated data to develop admissions or student population quotas based on race, color, ethnicity, or national origin, or use any such data in making admissions decisions. As to how an institution would implement this, the bill does not provide that.
Just one last, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll let you follow up since we're going to have a session real quick.
Okay. Would I be correct in stating that this bill would take us back before affirmative action, before DEI, to a time where it was determined by skin color as to who could get scholarships? Meaning that those persons making the decisions were basically all white, and we're putting that process back in place by doing this bill.
You addressing that to legal?
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay,
To legal.
yes.
The Supreme Court ruled that affirmative action can no longer be used for admissions or scholarship purposes.
Thank you. Okay, any other question while we're out of session to legal? We're back in session. We've got two more, Representative Johnson, Representative Bolso, then we'll keep moving. Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. I heard early on that that it says can't be solely on the base of color, whatever. Does anybody really think there was a time where somebody wasn't qualified and were chosen solely because their color? Because universities have requirements for entry, and a lot of times, especially with my university, University of Tennessee, now there are so many people applying this, and there's so many that don't get in. But it's what it's about is making sure affirmative action. All it did was make sure that it included people who had been excluded for years. We want the makeup of our university to look like the makeup of our state. And there wasn't a time when the sole purpose or the sole choice was that. We've always selected members or students who qualified, but making sure that we're taking people from all communities only makes sense. So are you saying there was a time where someone was solely chosen on their race?
Leader Zachary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members, what I'm saying is this language codifies the Supreme Court ruling of June of 2023. University of Tennessee, I can't speak to any other university, but the University of Tennessee has been having discussions with their donors since that Supreme Court ruling came out. This codifies the language. The Supreme Court is clear. That's why I'm bringing the bill.
Thank you. Let's go to, you got a follow-up?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
discussions with their donors. Are you excluded from that selection if your parents donated $5 million for a building? Are you excluded as well from that being part of why you're chosen?
Leader Zachary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the language of the bill is clear. We're codifying a Supreme Court ruling. You can go down as many rabbit holes as you want, but the language is very, very clear. We're codifying the Supreme Court ruling. The language is clear. We're going to make sure students are judged on admission and scholarships based on their academic achievement, leadership, their community engagement, and their character. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Let's go to Representative Boso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Previous question's been called. Any objections to the previous question? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, would you please put the vote on the board? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 15 ayes and 4 nays.
House Bill 377 does move out of calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee.
Okay, members, that brings us down to item number 4.
Members, we're on House Bill 1307. Chairman White's going to carry this for Chairman Moody. She is not feeling well today. We have a motion to second. Mr. Chairman, I think you have some amendments on this.
We do. Committee, bear with me for 1 moment. Chair Lady Moody was out sick, and I was given this bill yesterday, so I'm going to walk us through it. We have, let me ask legal, we have 3 amendments. Say it one more time. The first one is Amendment 4234.
Motion.
It does rewrite the bill.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Without objection, we're going to go ahead and add that to the bill. All in favor of adding Amendment 4234 to the bill, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Ayes have it. Okay. What is your next amendment?
The amendment is 6351.
Does it add to or rewrite?
I think it adds 2, and I will get legal explain what it does. It'll add 2.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for consideration. Second and a second. Thank you. We're going to go out of session. Legal, will you give us a brief explanation, please?
6351.
Katie Robertson.
Katie Robertson, Office of Legal Services. 6351 changes the start date from 25-26 school year to 26-27 school year. It also updates a cross-reference from subdivision B6 to subdivision B2C.
Anybody have any questions for legal? Without seeing none, we're back in session. Need a motion and a second to
Motion. Second.
have a motion and a second to adopt this without any objection. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. You are now working on your third amendment, Mr. Chairman. It should be 006810.
That is correct. It does not rewrite the bill.
Okay.
And I will
Motion.
Okay, without objection, we're going to go out of session for a brief explanation by legal. We're out of session, legal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Robertson, Legal Services. 6810 updates a cross-reference of 491602B3 to update the changes that were made in 4234 to subdivision B2B.
Members, you've had an explanation. Any questions for legal? Not seeing any. We're back in session. Have a motion and a second on Amendment 6810. One more time. Motion and a second, please.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. Not seeing any objection to adding this to the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. You're in, Mr. Chairman, you're in proper position to present your bill.
Okay, members,
And without objection, we're going to roll them all into one amendment. Okay, Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
Okay, members, what we're attempting to do here, this comes from the Department of Education, and it deals with, for years when we started, back in 2010, we started the Achievement School District. And for the last number of years, we've been talking about phasing it out. The state-run Achievement School District was legislatively established back in 2010 to serve as Tennessee's most intensive intervention for the priority schools, which are schools in the bottom 5%, which are schools in that low academic performance. Under the ASD legislation, priority schools were identified for placement in the ASD and were transferred from the local LEAs to the jurisdiction of the ASD. Now, it's 15 years. The ASD did have some isolated instances of success, but it's been a very tough model to move. And so through the Department of Education, we are now phasing out the ASD. And this legislation rewrites the code, creating a 3-tiered intervention system for all our priority schools going forward. In doing so, the ASD is to sunset, while the list of intervention, the sunset was in the amendments as we discussed, while the list of intervention options available for all priority schools expanded. And basically, there's this kind of a new system through the Department of Education that there will be a 3-tier system for any priority school that the LEA can choose. Tier 1, LEA is chosen. It can choose an evidence-based intervention or contract with an independent school turnaround expert. If you remember, we've got another bill we passed a number of years ago, and we just added another bill where we're going to fund through the state these turnaround experts that they can hire. Tier 2, LEA implements an intervention program run by a school turnaround expert also, and or conversion to a charter school, transfer of operation to a public higher education institution, or voluntary reconstitution. And then there's a Tier 3 school closure or mandated reconstitution with planning, oversight, and approval by the department. And basically, that's what we're doing. We're phasing out the ASD. The department, this gives the Department of Education a 3-tiered system on which to continue to address priority schools. Right now, I think we only have 3 ASDs left. And what we're going to do, I know there's 2 in Memphis, and we're just going to let them phase out over the next year. And then they will go back into the local LEA moving forward. And with that's the main explanation. If anyone needs more, we do have a Department of Education here that can answer detailed questions on the bill.
Members, you have questions for our bill sponsor, Representative Johnson.
Thank you. I did hear something in the chairman's explanation about funding, but I heard funding experts, and I feel like our experts are the teachers in those schools that are struggling. And typically those schools that are struggling, it's because it's an under-resourced community where our families are under-resourced. Is there going to be money? Will money be going to these schools to hire more teachers? Typically what we understand about under-resourced communities is we need smaller class size for those students to be successful. You know, looking at K1 and 2, having smaller class sizes so that more time can be spent on reading and math and those academics. So my question is, other than going to quote experts, is there any money and additional funding going to these schools to solve the problems that they're having?
Chairman White.
Yes, Chairman, if we can, we do have an expert in DOE that could come up here and address this. Is there any objection to going out of session? Let me answer that question.
Without objection, going out of session. We're out of session. If you'll come up and state your name and go ahead and answer that question, if you would. We'll turn your mic on for you. We'll turn it on for you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Jack Powers with the Department of Education, and I'm joined by my colleague Robin Kopp, also with the Department of Education. Representative Johnson, to answer your question, yes, there is funding available. There's always been, there are federal funds available for interventions implemented by the state's priority schools. And I'll also call out certain weights through the TISA funding formula for economically disadvantaged students and for students attending school in concentrated poverty areas. Which of course don't have a complete overlap with the list of priority schools that we're talking about, but there is certainly some overlap.
Representative Johnson, follow up.
Okay, but I think it needs to be enough money, and I question hiring these experts. Really.
Payment, okay.
All right. Yeah, my concern is these experts that we're hiring, who are they, where they come from, and why are the people in the schools that know what's happening in the community not the experts? My concern is money spent on these outside experts when what we really know that we need are more school staff, smaller class sizes, and social workers, that type of thing.
Response? Yes, sir, Chairman. Thank you for that question. So there are a couple of things I'll call out. One, I'll clarify perhaps the expert language in the legislation. It appears in two spots, once in Tier 1 as an intervention option and again in Tier 2. And to Chairman White's earlier point, the school turnaround expert refers to not necessarily individuals who are experts in funding, but individuals who, because of the time they've spent working in a school, are experts in school turnaround. So in that first tier, expert refers to perhaps a retired superintendent or principal who the school can bring in to advise them. To Chairman White's point on the second tier, that school turnaround expert language, we tried to craft to refer specifically to the current turnaround pilot program that is ongoing right now, that we have seen success through. So that's what that term expert refers to. The other thing that I'll call out, when crafting this legislation, we met with some of the leaders of this work in some of our larger districts that have priority schools. And one of the things they consistently mentioned is the importance of giving some of the control over what the intervention looks like back to the local school districts. That's what we've seen work across the state when we have seen schools successfully exit priority status. So that's something that we've tried to demonstrate here in this legislation as well.
Hold on. Mr. Powers, would you or your expert like to testify about anything else about this bill going forward?
Not unless the committee has any additional questions.
Fair enough. Members, any other questions before I go back to Representative Johnson? Representative Johnson, you recognize. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I was just thinking there was, with the ASD that the chairman talked about, supposedly we hired an expert there and it didn't go well at all. So that was just what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Members, without objection, we're going to go back into session. Thank you for your testimony. Members, we're back in session. Representative Bolso. Question's been called. Any objection to the question? Without seeing none. Members, we are voting on House Bill 1307. Madam Clerk, take the vote. Take the vote. Please vote. Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Members, House Bill 1307 moves off the finance. Members, if you'll oblige me, we're going to skip to number 53. House Bill 1322 by Chairman White. Do you have a motion? Have a motion and a second. Chairman White, I believe. I believe you have a amendment.
Would it be Amendment 4910?
That'd be correct. It does not rewrite the bill. Can you give us a brief explanation of it? Or would you like to go to legal?
Legal, could you support me on that?
Without objection, we're out of session. Legal, will you answer that question for us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Robertson, Legal Services. The Amendment 4910 adds that the commission may promulgate rules, and then it also provides the last part of it is adding and with the process and timelines established in subdivision H2.
Member, you've heard an explanation. Any questions for legal? Not seeing none. We're back in session.
Motion on the amendment.
Motion on the amendment. I have a second. Second on the amendment. Without objection, we're going to adopt this amendment 4910 to the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Chairman White, you're in the proper position to present your bill, please.
Thank you, Chairman Sapicki. Members, what this does briefly, this is an administration bill, and it deals with our charter schools in our state, which are continuing to grow. And so there's just 5 applications that this bill deals with. Number 1, if a local school board has made 3 decisions overturned by the commission, the Charter School Commission within 3 years, this allows the chartering sponsor, they can apply directly to the Charter Commission for up to 5 years. So that's item number 1. Item number 2, public colleges and universities may apply directly to the commission to sponsor a charter school. Item 3, it gives it renewal flexibility. They may approve. Right now, you may approve renewals in in either 0 years or 5 years. So when a charter comes back before the commission, they either have the decision not to approve it at all or give it another 10-year lease. They would like to cut that down a little bit and put it where they can give a charter, maybe say only a 5 or 6 year renewal as they see how they continue to do. And then item number 4, there is the replication authority that we'd want to give them. And that is if a charter school is a very complex process when you go through the process of being approved as a charter. And if you've gone through that process and you're established and you've been in operation for at least 1 year, if you want to add another school within that LEA, then you can replicate it with not going through all the paperwork. There's a little bit of paperwork, but you don't have to start from square one of the application. So this condenses the replication process for additional. And then the last one is key responsibilities of oversight. Since the Charter Commission has had more and more oversight over the charter schools, it just moves some of the paperwork, revising applications, monitoring performance, public reports, and then centralize that. That will move from the Department of Education to the Charter Commission. And that's basically what this particular bill does, is dealing with strictly with charters.
Members heard an explanation from the bill sponsor, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the sponsor, I guess my biggest concern with this particular piece of legislation is our locals are local. They understand their community. Shelby County has, I don't know, dozens of charters. Knox County has 2. But that's because our communities are different. That's not good for Shelby, not good for Knox. It's just our communities are different, and they're different needs within those communities. With this provision, if it was a bad idea last year for Hawkins County, it's a bad idea this year, it's a bad idea next year, bad idea 4 years from now. What you're saying is, just because they were told no to a bad idea, they get an automatic pass to go to the state agency where their chances are a lot better because they don't fully understand the community. That's my concern with that provision within this piece of legislation. Could you respond to that?
Sure. And I'm sorry.
Could Chairman White, go ahead.
Sorry, used to chairing. Yeah, you're referring to actually item number 1.
Right.
Reason this is in there, our Charter Commission, which is made up of a great board of 9 members, they do listen to, what we're having a lot of times is certain districts just may not like charters, and therefore they turn a lot of them down. And so this is just a provision to say, you do have an option if you've had 3 decisions that have been overturned by the commission has done, in my opinion, the last number of years has done a great job of listening to not only the local communities, but also listening to those. And so this is only if you've had 3 overturned by the commission at times. So I just disagree with you on that particular point. Go ahead.
Representative McKenzie, follow up.
I have to wait on the chair who's running this, but thank you, Chair.
Hold on. Yeah, turn your mic on. Now you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm okay with that to a point. If our LEA is doing well, they're a B LEA. They're C plus moving up to B. This provision still applies to them. They're doing a great job with their public schools, but you have this outside, capital of the venture capitalists or outside entity that just doesn't mesh with that LEA, and they understand that. The LEA understands that. The people in the LEA's jurisdiction understands that, but they get to bypass that now. Again, this might be solving a particular problem that your charter commission is looking at, but it doesn't solve all of them. Again, I think we kind of look inward. We get tunnel vision in these when we pass these type of bills. It can be detrimental to an entity that doesn't need that. And I'll be blunt. Knox County hasn't needed that. Knox County does a good job with the public school system. So for somebody to apply 3 times and then get an automatic pass, I think is harmful to our community.
Chairman White, would you like to respond?
Thank you, and I understand what you're saying. I just disagree the point. I think this is a protection that if a particular LEA just turns them down. Now, I have a lot of faith and confidence in the history of the Charter Commission that we established a number of years ago, that they are really looking into these, and they've rejected charters also. But if you just have continual rejections by an LEA, and the Charter Commission has overturned those rejections, which many times they don't, then this puts that in place. So thank you for your concern. I just have a disagreement there.
Just for clarification, members, in the state of Tennessee, for-profit charters are not allowed, only not-for-profit charters are allowed. So we could have a discussion about that later, but that's just to make sure it's on the record. Representative Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, my concern is that once you have the portion that says once you have one charter school, then others can open. What we are seeing in Chattanooga with Boys Prep is pretty scary. And they put out a whole lot of good press for a couple of years, and but people knew there were problems. And now what we've seen is a teacher who did not get thoroughly vetted and abused a student. We've seen that. We've seen where certified teachers weren't hired, grades are at risk, and so I feel like, you know, before that happened, that came out this year, based on this bill, we would be opening more and more of that charter school before we really knew the full impact. I mean, the same charter school is opened in Knoxville, and before they even opened, they had 3 different school leaders. They struggle to keep school leaders, and we see the dismal performance of charter schools in our own Department of Ed website. So only a few charter schools perform above the bottom 20% in the state, and so just opening charters off of other charters, I think, is a dangerous proposition, especially when we have whole companies shut down and close 3 charter schools in Shelby County and leave the state. And then where do those kids go? I think we need to allow the locals to look at this more closely, and we can't assume just because one's already open that the rest are going to be great, because it was a quick fall for those folks at Boys Prep, and it was a tough opening in Knox County, and I really am concerned about how that's going to go. I think we should leave this to the locals.
Chairman White?
Just quickly, to your point, though the replication process is not an automatic, you still got to go through that, and back to the thing, the Charter Commission's got a good history doing that. And also item number 3, the renewal flexibility. One thing great about our ability to control charters, they can be closed down once they begin. That's why where this renewal flexibility of 5 to 10 years instead of you can either deny them or give them 10 years. This way, this gives us a little more flexibility on that. So if charters can be shut down if they are not performing, unlike a traditional public school, which can go on for years and years and years.
Representative Johnson, follow up.
A quick follow-up. Yes, they can be, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we ever do that. K-12 Inc., the online charter school, some of the poorest performance I've never seen in my life, and no one made them shut down ever. So I haven't seen it done at any level that's effective.
Chairman White?
No comment.
Thank you. Representative Bolso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question has been called. Do I have objection? Have objection. Chairman Bolso called the question. You want to withdraw or keep going? Thank you very much. Members, we have objection on it. All those in favor of calling the question say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Ayes have it. Question's been called. Members, we are voting on House Bill 1322. Madam Clerk, will you take the vote, please? Please vote. Chairman White. Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, you have 15 ayes and 4 nays.
House Bill 1322 by Chairman White will move off to Gov Ops. Give the gavel back.
He has requested to pull that, so we have.
Five bills out in an hour and a half, so I thought we'd be on 30 by now. Reverend Hakeem, you're recognized for a comment, question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were comments made in regards to prep school in Chattanooga, and I would like to have, if I could, 30 seconds to speak on that.
Any objection? Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Boys Prep in Chattanooga, every senior they have received a college scholarship. There is a partnership between the public schools and the Boys Prep School in that they work together to bring in a whole new leadership team at the school. And so I would, oh, and in addition to that, where a young person was abused by a teacher that was not at Boys Prep, that was prior to at another school. They recognized that things needed to change. As I said, they're working with the school system in Chattanooga. So I just wanted to put that on the record if I could, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You recognize, sir.
To the representative, I have a question for him. Representative, do you believe that the issues with Chattanooga Prep have been handled appropriately at the local level?
You recognize?
I believe they have. And one reason I say that is that the partnership between the public school system and the charter school, Boys Prep. And I would like to think that it'll be a model going forward if indeed there are problems at another institution. I think it was already on an upward trajectory, and I think that will be maintained going forward. Thank you.
Follow up real quick.
Quick follow-up, then we'll move on.
Last question is, do you have confidence in the new group that's running Chattanooga Prep going forward, that they'll address those concerns with that school?
Representative?
Yes, sir, I do have that confidence. And again, I keep going back to the partnership between the public school system and Boys Prep. And yes, I do believe that problems that were there will not raise its head again, and that it will be a model school going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, those comments. Members, now, item number 5, House Bill 1344 by Leader Lambert, where he's asked to roll this 5 spaces or behind item number 10. Item number 6, House Bill 194 by Chairman Vaughn. You are recognized. You got a motion and second on your bill. Any amendments, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The drafting code on the latest amendment, which rewrites the bill, is 6837.
That is correct. It does rewrite the bill. Okay, members, any objection to adding the amendment to the bill for proper discussion? A motion is second on that. Any objection? Hearing none. All those in favor of adding the amendment to the bill indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Your bill is amended. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm beginning to feel a lot like Representative McCalman with towing bills and Representative Garrett with trust bills. This is your annual NIL update for our athletic programs at our institutions across the state. It's a very fluid landscape these days in the college athletics world. A lot coming out of court decisions, some very little activity on the national level. And so what we're trying to do with this latest amendment is a few things. Number one, basically we're trying to future-proof our athletic programs to where they can, with the things that are going on, that we can cover and protect the sovereignty of these institutions while they make decisions. It prohibits the NCAA and other athletic associations from adopting rules or policies that violate antitrust law, interfering with prohibiting a university-affiliated foundation or student athlete from participating in the NIL activities that are offered by our law. It prohibits the NCAA from penalizing university or affiliated foundation or student athlete for participating in NIL activities that are allowed under our law, and the Tennessee Attorney General retains the authority to take action against such an athletic association. What we're doing here is we're not on the tip of the spear, but we're somewhere on the pointy end with regards to this. What we're doing is this law puts us consistent with competitor states like Georgia, Alabama, Ohio, Louisiana, Virginia, and others that allows universities, affiliated foundations, and third parties acting on their behalf to provide compensation to student athletes unless prohibited or limited by federal law, a binding court order, or certain requirements of the university's governing athletic associations. Frankly, we feel like this is going to start adding structure into a system that is very dynamic, would be the best way to put it. And so what we're trying to do is protect our universities, keep them competitive, protect the rights of the institutions, and protect our student athletes' ability to earn compensation for their name, image, and likeness. And I've got a lot more words, but y'all have heard a lot of words today, so I'll stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Chairman Vaughn. I, for one, appreciate you being able to keep monitoring on this over the years that we've had this discussion through our committees. Members, any questions of Chairman Vaughn, Representative Raper?
I'd like to call the question, please.
Okay, members, any objection to the question being called? Hearing none. All those, let's go ahead and put the vote on the board. Madam Clerk, take the vote. Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Thank you. House Bill 194 does move out to finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Appreciate it. Item number 7, House Bill 1125. Is Chairman Farmer in the room? I know he's in another committee, I think, carrying the bill. Let's roll this a couple, about 2 spaces, see if he comes in. That brings us to item number 8, House Bill 1188 by Representative Grills. Representative Grills, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe we have an amendment.
Okay, let's get it in proper order then. Are you going to want to add all the amendments we got,
sir.
or just
No, sir.
give us which one you want to add?
6450.
6450. We had a motion and a second. Does it rewrite the bill?
That's correct.
Okay. Any objection to adding the amendment to the bill for discussion? Hearing no objection. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. 6450 has been added. You're now on the bill to properly discuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this legislation does 4 things. It defines anti-Semitism using the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. We passed legislation back in 2022 and we put that into code. The second thing it does, it states that the Title VI coordinator will be designated by the State Department of Education for K-12 and each governing body of a public institution of higher education to review, monitor, investigate, and report to the legislature and the Attorney General anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment. It also states that the IRA definition, including its contemporary examples, shall be integrated into student, faculty, employee codes of conduct at public educational institutions. And last, it states that each Title VI coordinator shall issue an annual report to the General Assembly. And with that, Mr. Chairman, we have a young man here that would like to testify.
Okay. Before we do that, members, any questions of the explanation before we go out of session for the person to testify? Do we have any questions on the bill? Do you want them to speak, or is it there to hear?
They would like to speak.
They would like to speak? Okay. Okay, without objection, we're out of session. Which ones? Make sure, see, I've got, there you go. Jason Diebner, is that correct? And David Sofer? Yep. Okay. I will give you 3 minutes together. And whenever I ask you to speak, to state your name and everything for the record. And who would like to stay, Jason or David?
I'll start first.
Okay, you're recognized. Just state your name for the people at home.
Sure.
My name's David Sofer. I'm representing the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I appreciate Representative Grills for his leadership and advocacy for this bill. The reason why we're here today is anti-Semitism is prevalent here in the United States, including, unfortunately, in the state of Tennessee. Our data shows across the state, across the country, over 100% increase in anti-Semitic activity year over year. That includes also, again, from the previous year, another over 100% jump. Unfortunately, the state of Tennessee is not immune to anti-Semitism as in other states. I mean, from reports that we've seen from local groups, we've seen it as early as first grade as far as anti-Semitic activity towards students. And it's really unfortunate, puts a really big strain on the community. And so what this bill does, as the representative mentioned, it creates a Title VI coordinator. The reason this is important is that it would allow folks to be able to investigate anti-Semitic activity specifically along with other hates and be able to deal with these issues and review them and, appoint it to the Attorney General if need be. This bill has the support of the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, University of Memphis, and we're grateful to that. And so this really provides an opportunity to send a message that anti-Semitic activity will not be tolerated in the state of Tennessee. It will be investigated. And some of the things that we've seen through the news won't be prevalent here in the state of Tennessee. And with that, we'd love to have Jason share a few words about his experience about anti-Semitic activity on campus.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Diener, you are recognized and state your name and everything for the people at home.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. My name is Jason Debner. I'm a senior at the University of Texas at Austin, and I'm here today to speak in support of HB 1188. Over the past year, simply expressing my Jewish identity has made me and my peers targets on campus. After the horrific events of October 7th, protests filled with blatant anti-Semitism and attacks on Israel's very right to exist surrounded my campus. I stood silently at these protests, wrapped in my Israeli flag, not to provoke, but to show pride. Still, I was shoved, threatened, told Hamas would come kill me. My photo was edited, the Star of David on my flag replaced with a swastika and spread for the school to see. One day after class, I was assaulted and told to return to Europe. Just a week ago, I returned from visiting the concentration camps Auschwitz and Majdanek. I want to remind everyone in this room, the Holocaust did not begin with gas chambers. It began with dehumanization, with the silencing of identity, and with instilling fear. We must recognize the dangerous parallels we're seeing today and remember, never again is not just a phrase from history, it's a responsibility in the present. That's why HB 1188 matters. It protects Jewish students and ensures we're treated with the same dignity and respect as everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony for y'all being here. Members, while we're out of session, anyone would like to address our guest? Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Did I hear you say this has not happened in Tennessee?
No, so thank you for the question. Thank you for the question, Representative. It is happening in Tennessee. It's not happening at the same levels as we've seen in the news, let's say with, what's going on at Harvard and other institutions. But our local Jewish organizations have reported it is happening. It has happened on campus. It has happened in K-12. And I mentioned it was an incident at first grade level as well.
Follow up.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. I hadn't heard of anything of major like you just spoke in Texas. Really awful. And hopefully we won't see that here, but I understand that it is happening in places. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions by Representative Hakeem? Did you have your hand up?
Yes, sir.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here with us. I don't know, it just sort of puts me between a rock and a hard place. I appreciate and understand the concerns that you've expressed, and I feel that I have a track record of saying I love people, period. And my actions, I hope, have, borne that out. But now what is being asked of us, I'll ask you, if you can't answer it, what is it we're trying to do with this legislation in the state of Tennessee?
Sure.
Would you like to address that?
Yes, please. And thank you, Representative. I appreciate the question. That's actually the key. And unfortunately, with time limits, sometimes it's difficult to get it all out in a minute and a half. But the reason why this legislation is so critical is, so currently you have a federal program called Title VI. Title VI prevents discrimination on a whole host of different things. It does not address religion. Anti-Semitism falls in this really difficult bucket of where is it? Is it religious discrimination? Is it cultural discrimination? Is it discrimination based on the fact that some people, love Israel? Like it always has fallen into this kind of, complicated gray area where unfortunately federal regulations don't allow for Title VI coordinators to be able to investigate it. Now, the president has issued an executive order to address the complications with respect to Title VI and religion, and specifically anti-Semitism. But it's an executive order, as you know, Representative, those things come and go depending who's president. This allows the state of Tennessee to have it in code that this is, we're using the definition of anti-Semitism that the state of Tennessee has already passed, and they are going to allow Title VI coordinators and emphasize that they can discriminate anti-Semitism just like they would race, and other sex and other things, and allow for full investigation of any incidents just like they would with any other version of hate. And that's why this is critical, to specifically dealing with anti-Semitism.
Representative Kim, you need to follow up?
If I may. Yes.
Go ahead.
And if need be, I'll pose this to the chairman bringing the bill. What do we say when a Hispanic person comes to us with the same type of concerns? I mean, each group we're going to say, we're going to have a special person looking at this. And I understand what happened, after October 7th and so forth, but are we opening the door that, maybe we didn't intend to, be so broad that other people, other entities, groups of people want to step through that door?
Okay, would anyone want to address that, or I can go back into the sponsor and go back into session?
All right.
Again, Representative, I guess from my end, what I would tell you is Title VI allows for race-based investigation. Anti-Semitism doesn't fall into that. And that's the challenge we have today, is we're trying to solve a problem that unfortunately there's a loophole in Title VI with respect to the federal government. That's the loophole we're trying to solve today. So I hope that answers your question, at least from my end, and what we're trying to achieve.
One more.
Very brief.
In the legislation, I think that we spoke of, religion, as the law is now, is not covered. I'm just asking a question.
Sure. So in federal Title VI, discrimination of religion is not stated. So it is not covered under Title VI. And that's what this bill solves, is that loophole. In fact, if you even look at the state constitution, anti-Semitism, again, is kind of in this gray area. So that this bill specifically addresses that loophole and allows for investigation of anti-Semitism, just like it would with race, sex, et cetera.
Thank you.
Chairman Spicky.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. One of the problems I see with this is ignorance. People are ignorant of each other and don't have the respect for each other. And I'm very glad that this is being added in about anti-Semitism, because it is on the rise, not only in our country, but in our state. And we need to take a stand as the General Assembly, saying any type of racism or bigotry will not be tolerated in our state of Tennessee. So thank you, Chairman Grills. I don't have to congratulate you on this, but gentlemen, thank you for coming in. And I'm very sorry for what happened to you in that other state we won't talk about. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate y'all being here and giving us your testimony. Greatly appreciated. We're now back in session. I'll go back to our sponsor of the bill, Representative Grills.
No further statements.
Representative McKenzie, do you need to ask a question for while we're okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as we've sat here even today, and this has been kind of an evolutionary process, we're passing a lot of bills out of our committees and to the House floor to say we're a homogenous society. no one set apart than any other person. It was 2 years ago that some students came down from Shelby County touring the University of Tennessee. Somebody threw a bunch of bananas at African-American students. Our problems are deep, and that's why I fight against these bills. This is a good bill, but it is totally orthogonal, 180 degrees out of phase with the rest of the bills that we're passing here. My heart goes out to you, Jason, but there's 1,000 Malik's like my son or Sam's that have those same things happen, and we're not doing anything but moving the pendulum toward the middle. So if the pendulum is in the middle, October 7th was horrible. Situation that I described was horrible. Things going on in University of Texas, they're horrible entities, and on our campuses. If they're crimes, they're crimes. But to the sponsor, and I'm sure you're going to support those doing away with anything DEI bills, doing away with any of these other bills. Why bring this bill that sticks out like a sore thumb? What's happened on our college campuses post October 7th was abhorrent. They're horrible things. But to pass a bill to isolate one particular group of person, we've just said was bad, unconstitutional, all of these good things. Why is this piece of legislation before us when we're trying to dismantle anything that talks about diversity? And I dare say this is a diverse group of people that we're dealing with. So why are we trying to do something that set apart one aspect of a diverse group of people and do away with anything other with other diverse groups of people?
Thank you. Representative Grills, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would just say that discrimination against Jewish individuals should not be tolerated, nor any other individual should be tolerated. And making sure that we reiterate the importance and protect these individuals, these youngsters, is just another responsibility we as legislators have before us. And I feel like this is a step in the right direction. And if you don't support it, you have every right to not vote for it. But I believe that supporting these individuals is a step in the right direction. And also, I want to give credit to Chairman Sapicki for the Tennessee Israeli Caucus. I believe that's something that we all ought to participate in and join in. And thank you, Chairman Sapicki, for the effort you put forth there.
Did you have a follow-up, sir?
I did. And comments. I agree with you. And I am a member of the Tennessee Israeli Caucus, for the record, for the reasons that are laid out in this bill. So let me be clear. This is not about behavior. This is about the way that our nation is going. Our nation from DC to Nashville is saying we're not talking about diversity. This is a pro-diversity bill that picks out one particular group. And that's what we said we don't want to do anymore. The deputy speaker eloquently, or as best he could, lay it out. I disagree with that. I disagree with everything that is before us. So I wanted to be clear on this is not me not supporting our Jewish citizens here and across the world. It's not that. So be clear. I'm saying that this bill is 180 degrees out of phase with a bunch of other pieces of legislation that are brought before us to say everything is equal. This sets out one particular race, religion, as the gentleman said, hard to quantify. Same thing. So that's my concern with this bill.
Thank you. And members, I got a couple more, and appreciate everybody's comments, but I'll keep it brief. My job is to keep the committee moving. So Representative Bolsong will recognize you. We got a couple more. Do you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to call the question, but instead I do want to respond to my good friend from Knox County. His comment that what we're doing in HB 1188 is inconsistent with the other bills that have come before us and what our action has been. That simply is not true. What we're doing with HB 1188 is 100% consistent with the bills that we have voted on this morning and last week. And here's why. When you look at the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Students for Fair Admission versus Harvard, one of the things that Chief Justice John Roberts said in words or in substance is that the best way to end discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race, which is precisely what this committee and this General Assembly has been doing. And whether you use the buzzword diversity or some other word, the bottom line is that you are still engaging in discrimination. So the work that we've done here today, the work that we've done here for this entire 114th General Assembly is not inconsistent with HB 1188. It is perfectly consistent, Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to continuing to end discrimination in this state and across this country, one bill at a time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Representative Johnson now, and then to Representative Sapiki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does your bill include Islamophobia,
You
or is
recognize.
it just anti-Semitism?
Just don't have a running conversation. Representative Grills, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It does not.
So,
But
You have a follow-up? You have a follow-up?
yes, I guess just more of a statement. Again, there are so many groups and religions that are discriminated against, and singling out that's one when it's happening to so many is concerning. Thank you.
Chairman Sapiki?
Move previous question.
Previous question been called. Any objection to the question? Hearing none, we're on House Bill 1188. Any objection? There has been no objection to the question. So would the clerk please put the vote on the board? Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 15 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 present not voting.
Thank you. House Bill 1188 moves out to calendar and rules. Thank you, sir.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it. Members, item number 9, House Bill 1135, the board that has been taken off notice. House Bill 1135 off notice. That brings us back to House Bill 1125. We wrote 2 spaces, which is item number 7. Chairman Farmer, you're recognized. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, members. And Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, when this one's coming out of the sub, I had the original bill and I had amended it to add part 2. Do y'all have amendment 6013 there?
That is correct.
And that should be the cleanup amendment coming out of sub into full, putting the 2 bills basically I had together into one.
Let's double check with legal.
Okay.
That she said yes. You got a motion, a second. So do we need to add those? Okay. It is a rewrite. And what's the amendment number again?
It's amendment code 6013.
Okay. Amendment 6013 is before us. It is a rewrite. Any objection to adding the amendment to the bill for proper discussion? Hearing no objection. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Your bill is amended properly, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. And this bill does 2 things, members. Number 1, it allows for protections for our teachers in our schools. If a child transfers into that school and doesn't spend more than 50% of that time with that teacher there, that can't be counted against that teacher for something that may have not been taught prior to. And number 2, this comes from a constituent situation from home to where a teacher that actually taught me in high school passed away. And there was no mechanism in the law for the school system, the Sevier County school system, to reimburse the teacher's estate for all of her sick time, almost 400 days of time she'd worked that hard, just not taking that time. So this would allow for a mechanism of law to give that teacher in a situation like that, if the school system chose to do so, it's a may, it's not a shall, to reimburse that teacher's estate for their hard work. And members, Mr. Chair, that's what my bill does.
Okay, that explanation before is from Chairman Farmer. Questions to the sponsor? Seeing no question, any objection to the question being called? Hearing none, no objection. So let's, Madam Clerk, would you put the vote on the board? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 17 ayes and 0 nays.
Thank you. House Bill 1125 moves to Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thanks for being patient with us.
Thank you.
That brings us back to item number 10, House Bill 1197 by Representative Kumar. Is he in the room? Okay, we'll roll that about 5 spaces. He's got 3. Let's go ahead and get before we do 11 and 12, because we got 3 bills on him. Item number 13, House Bill 1056 by Representative Doggett. You've been waiting patiently. You're recognized. You have a motion and a second. Do you have any amendments?
Hey, good morning or afternoon, rather. Yes, sir, I do have amendment code 6104.
6104. Does that rewrite the bill?
Yes, sir, it makes the bill.
Okay, so any objection to adding it to the bill for proper discussion? Hearing none, what's that bill number again? 60. Any objection to 6104 being added to House Bill 1056? No objections. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Your bill is amended. You're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, the amendment provides a 25% discount for children under the age of 24 whose parents are full-time public school employees in Tennessee, extending beyond teachers and administrators to include support staff such as custodians, transportation workers, and food service employees. And this would apply to our Tennessee colleges, universities.
Anything else you want to add? Okay, Chairman Slater. Any objection to the question on House Bill 1056? Hear no objection. Madam Clerk, would you please put the vote on the board? Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 17 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
House Bill 1056 moves out to Finance. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say it's great to see Representative Raper back.
Yeah.
We prayed so hard for you, and we're glad to see you back and making amends. So,
thanks. Love you, brother.
Yes, sir. Love you too. Thank y'all.
Appreciate it. That brings us back to Williams in the room? No. Why don't we, I see one of our members, why don't we jump down then to, why don't we go down to 16? Let's jump down to House Bill 645, item number 16 by Leader Garrett. Got a motion and a second. Okay, let's get our bill in order. You have any amendments?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
And that
The amendment code is 5101.
You have a motion second. That's what we have. Does it rewrite the bill?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any objection to adding 5101 to House Bill 645 for proper discussion? Hearing no other objection, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Your bill is amended. You now can explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That amendment is slightly different than what came out of subcommittee. And I just want to make it known that this bill adds Western Governors University of Tennessee to a scholarships or available scholarship dollars that they're otherwise not eligible for. From sub to full, this new committee that you just added to this piece of legislation makes that funding contingent upon it being funded. So it's not automatically added for these students should this bill receive enough support to move on to the next committee. So that's the only difference between what was the bill from subcommittee to what it is today. Let me tell you why, committee, that I wholeheartedly support this piece of legislation. The Ben Ashley Scholarship, as this committee, you all will know, is used for some scholarship folks, for scholarship monies to a lot of institutions in the state of Tennessee. Here's why I'm a huge supporter of that. As you all know, I do practice law. I went to the Nashville School of Law. That particular school is what I would call an untraditional law school. It's for law school students that work full time. And that's exactly what I did. For 4 years, I worked 40, 50 hours and I also went to law school at night and was able to get my law degree. I came out of that particular law school debt-free where I could hopefully practice. And I had my son in my second year of law school, one of three. And I don't know if I would have been able to do that if I was in a traditional setting, right out of college. There were no scholarships available for that particular law school. There may be now, but I do believe that Western Governor University of Tennessee was recruited to come here several years ago, a decade ago, to be an institution in Tennessee that provides an opportunity for our nurses, for our teachers, for those that are in the technical space, for jobs. They have folks that graduate from that college. They have 5,000 folks that are right here, Tennesseans, that become teachers, become nurses in sectors that we desperately need these folks. So these dollars are desperately needed. And I know there's some heartburn on this particular piece of legislation that dollars are hard to get. I feel like every meeting I've had over the past couple of weeks is more money, more money, more money. We need more money. And I'm sure you're hearing the same thing. But I think this is an important because, one, in the non-traditional sense, as I described my law school experience, this school is for non-traditional students. Students that may not come right out of high school, that can go to a college where scholarships are probably a little bit more available for them. These are folks that are in their mid-30s. They have families. They may have kids. They're married. They may not have the opportunity to grab these scholarships that were once available to them if they were a traditional student. So my hope and my prayer is that they will have the opportunity to go to a school that might be a little bit cheaper than others, that might be able to come out of this particular institution without debt. And hopefully if they achieve other scholarships that are available to them, that they may not pay anything to go to a school to become nurses, teachers, and folks in our technical areas where we need so desperately folks in the workforce to fulfill those roles. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to take any questions on this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Leader Garrett, for that explanation. We do have a couple people that requested to speak on this, but we also have some committee members. Committee, I got a couple that want to ask. Do you want to go out of session first before you ask your questions or go? So, okay, without any objection, we are out of session. And let me invite up to the podium Ginger Hauser and Kim Estep. Once y'all are situated, now you have a total of 3 minutes together. So, of course, state your name for the record, and Kim or Ginger, whoever wants to begin.
I'll start. Dr. Kim Estep, I have been the chancellor of WGU Tennessee since WGU came to the state of Tennessee in 2013. So it will be 12 years ago that it was authorized in the state. I'm proud to say at that time we've awarded more than 13,000 degrees to working adults in the state. So we've had a lot of success in the state at helping to educate students who otherwise would not have access to higher education, usually due to their work schedules and due to cost. And so with that said, I'm going to pass on my time to Ginger Hauser, who has some remarks.
Ms. Hauser?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and the sponsor did such a good job. I'm just going to say a couple of things and then be open to your questions. I was working for the Board of Regents when WGU came here. So I was representing the public institutions. And what I saw when WGU came is that it offered a really innovative model that is great as our state and independent colleges are in this state. It was a place that non-traditional folks could succeed. And when I became a vice president at one of our state community colleges, I actually tried and was a bit successful in getting some innovative IT programming in place, really using the model that WGU had created. And that was integrating industry certificates into IT education so that they can further advance their careers and get there faster. The Ben Ashley Opportunity Grant currently allows those low-income students that are in independent colleges the opportunity to get additional TSA funding. WGU is currently, by virtue of the agreement in 2013, eligible for TSA funding, as our agreement states, but we're not eligible for this one piece. So this is just allowing us to be available for that TSA funding. That was part of our agreement, and so that we can continue to offer a low-cost, innovative education. Particularly, this is helpful for rural students. Oftentimes in our state, as many institutions as we don't have them everywhere. So often those working adults do not have the opportunity to finish their college degree because they can't go to a brick and mortar. And WGU is an opportunity for them in those high need fields like the chairman and sponsor mentioned, in IT, in business, in nursing, and in education. So with that, I'll finish my comments and we're open to take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. Any members of the committee have any questions they'd like to address, I guess? Representative Bosso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Dr. Estep. Dr. Estep, you just heard Ms. Hauser correctly state that Representative Garrett made an excellent presentation. One of the things that he set out for us was how education provides economic opportunity. And my question is, if passing this bill and making the Ben Ashley Scholarship available to your non-traditional students passes, will that provide economic opportunities for those students?
It will, and particularly for working adults.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else want to ask a question of our guest? I don't see anyone. Thank you so very much for coming forward and your comments. We're back in session, members. We're on item 625. Okay. Anyone have a question or a comment? Oh, Representative Hurd, you had your name on the list. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And sponsor, I just want to say thank you for carrying this legislation. As many know, I worked with WGU for a few years. They're trying to work on some legislation to allow them to offer access and some assistance to our constituents across the state. I look forward to you having more success than I did with the route that we're taking now. So I do look forward to supporting it. But I do want to say, as far as WGU goes, they are unique in that they were invited to the state and they meet our students where they are. When we talk about adult learners and their needs between work and lives and families, and they meet them there. And I will put their success rate, not just as far as graduation, but their job placement and their success after their education with WGU against any brick and mortar in this state. And a lot of people kind of scratch their head and they step back when they talk about this type of learning. These individuals are educated, they're working in our state, and they're achieving as high or higher as graduates from any other institution. So I fully support them, look forward to supporting this legislation. Thank you for carrying it, sponsor, and look forward to moving forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative McKenzie, do you have a question of our sponsor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's just really, it's nothing against WGU at all. They are doing a good work here in the state, and they're giving opportunities where none existed. But just my concern with this, and I appreciate your amendment, but I just look at the Ben Ashley Scholarship as you just look at the numbers. It could use that $2 million in and of itself, to make sure it's solvent and that we're doing the best for those students that are receiving it. And that's what I hate. I hate that and I'm not saying you're doing that, so don't get me wrong. But our system is pitching one against the other when it should be a both kind of a conversation. We should fund these opportunities. That's why I supported the Future Teacher program last year, because that's a great opportunity for WGU to have in terms of getting those people from working to being a valuable part of our classroom. So that's my concern with this bill, is that when you look at the numbers already for the Ben Ashley Scholarship, was a great senator out of Knox County. I would just like for it to have full funding for the existing students.
Did you need to comment on this, sir? Go ahead, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative McKenzie, thank you for those comments. My hope is, if I can receive the support of the committee, I can have that very same argument as it travels through finance to see if we can absolutely do that. So we can have that funding, have that conversation where we're not pitting, so to speak, our institutions here that benefit from the scholarship, make sure all that does, to echo Chairman Hurt's comments about what these students, and Representative Bulzo, Chairman Bulzo's comments about what this can do for the economic benefit of all students. So my hope is that I could have that pitch, that argument in full finance, or at least in the finance committee, to see if we can get this thing funded. So I appreciate those comments.
Thank you. We have, let's go to Chairman Speaker, then come back. Chairman Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And nothing against WGU. I've sat on this committee for 7 years. Everything that WGU, most everything that they've asked to do, we've approved in this committee and been very gracious with them. I am going to caution the committee here. Proceed with caution. And let me tell you why. This scholarship that they're accessing runs out of money every year. There are people that are applying for this scholarship that don't get the money because it runs out of money. And potentially adding more people into this is going to further prohibit students who are already trying to get this scholarship from receiving it. The other problem is we are opening another door to Pandora's box. And let me explain that to you. Currently, there are 29 brick and mortar schools in our districts in the state of Tennessee that have invested in the state of Tennessee with massive amounts of employment and opportunity for people that are here in the state of Tennessee, from Belmont, Bethel, Carson Newman, Cumberland, Fisk, Freed-Hardman, Lee University, Lipscomb, Maryville, Rhodes, Trevecca, Tusculum, University of the South. We already have a huge investment into this group of individuals. And by further diluting that could cause economic stress, because 100%, it is cheaper to attend a school that has no brick and mortar where you have to go to. 100% agree. And so consider the amount of scholarships and students that'll start to be pulled out of these brick and mortar investments in our communities. I would caution you there. Second of all, yes, Western Governors University was invited here to come here, I believe, by Governor Haslam. But there is Southern New Hampshire University that has students currently in the state of Tennessee, Liberty University, Penn Foster College, and the University of Phoenix. All have students in the state of Tennessee that are attending virtually right now. So the problem we're going to have is, if we approve this, then I guarantee you within the next couple of years, we're going to have New Hampshire, Liberty, Penn, and University of Phoenix, and anybody else who's going to want to come forward and take advantage of the scholarship, which is potentially going to gut this thing for our kids. I'm losing my voice. Gut this thing for our kids in Tennessee, and potentially now jeopardize all these brick and mortar universities and colleges in our communities. So I will be a no vote on this. I'd ask you to vote no on this, and let's make sure that we slow this thing down and make sure, first of all, let's fund it properly to where the kids that are currently involved with this get an opportunity for it before we talk about expanding it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do you want to respond to that, Leader Garrett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Sapicki, I want to thank you for your comments, but also want to thank you because you expressed these comments to me before this bill came before you. And I really appreciate and respect you for those concerns to do that beforehand. So I just really appreciate that, for one. But let me make a couple of comments in response to why that brick and mortar versus online institution doesn't bother me as much, and shouldn't then prevent students from participating and hopefully benefiting from this scholarship by going to Western Governors University of Tennessee. And here's why. it's very explicit in code what is required. Now, they don't have a brick and mortar. I will concede that. They do have a headquarters here in Franklin, Tennessee. But what's unique that all the others that Chairman Sapicki mentioned in his speech is that all those other institutions don't have a board that's here. They don't have a presence here. They not have a brand that's part of Tennessee. They don't have an advisory board that's touching. Basically, they've done everything possible to make it where, while they don't have buildings, because that's not the goal, just like the National School of Law does not take accreditation. So you come from that law school with a degree that's from an accredited law school, because under the ABA guidelines, your students can't work more than 20 hours a week. The National School of Law said we're not going to seek that because our students work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, just like I did going through law school. So we have to adapt to the new market, to the new ways that people learn. And the Western Governors of Tennessee, the Western University of Tennessee does that. And so that's why I hope Chairman Sapicki's comments about fully funding this scholarship is a conversation that I can have in front of the Finance Committee to see if that's possible, Mr. Chairman. So that's why I want to make sure they've done everything possible to make sure their footprint is here in the state, to make sure we have Tennessee students with over 200 teachers that are teaching here from Tennessee with Tennessee jobs that's connected to Tennessee, to make sure this is a Tennessee institution. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to take any further questions.
Thank you very much. Members, we're down to 7 minutes for the end of our committee, and we've got a couple more to want to talk. Representative Balso, do you have a comment on this? Or
Previous question.
previous question's been moved. Any objection to the previous question? Hearing none. Without objection, we're going to ask the clerk to put the vote on the board. Is everyone voted that wants to vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes, 8 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Okay, House Bill 645 fails for lack of majority. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee.
Thank you. Okay, members, we're down to 6 minutes. We got time for Representative Kumar. I think you're back in line if you can do yours. And before, okay, you got a motion in a second, but let me say this, for those of you still out there, we're not moving real fast, but we're going to be here in the morning. Members on the committee, I tell you this again before we leave, we'll be back in here at 9:30 to 11 in the morning. And then we will come back in at 3:30 and work till we finish. Okay. Objection overruled. Representative Kumar, you're recognized on item number, which one is it? Item 10, House Bill 1197. Chairman Kumar, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Committee. Mr. Chairman, we do have Amendment 6103.
6013, you have a motion, second amendment. Does it rewrite the bill or does it add?
It rewrites the bill.
Okay, any objection to adding the amendment to the bill for proper discussion? Hearing no objection, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Your bill is amended. Go ahead and explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A little bit of history. In 2008, this legislature passed Public Chapter 1037 to allow Tennessee schools to offer an elective course on a non-sectarian, non-religious academic study of the Bible for classes K-9 through 12, with curricula to be approved by the Department of Education. That was in 2008. 2009, Tennessee Bible standards were developed. Subsequent to that, 36 of the 147 school districts did develop and follow these curricula. In 2018, we passed Public Chapter 775, And that was my idea, that let us list these approved curricula on the Department of Education websites. So schools who are interested and cannot develop their own program can borrow that because these are already pre-approved. The problem was that in the history, one law said these are to be approved by the Board of Education. The other said these are to be approved by the State Board of Education. I'm sorry, State Board of Education and the Department of Education. So really it was confusion and nothing much got done. This bill, 1197, streamlines the process so that LEAs are able to develop or approve these standards, and the previously approved courses are grandfathered. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, just for correction, Representative Kumar, we added 6103. You did file a later amendment called 6831.
We are not.
You're not adding that one?
Adding that.
Okay, we added the correct one. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Members, with that explanation before us on House Bill 1197, discussion from the committee. Representative Johnson. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick clarification. I think I asked this in subcommittee. So we're not changing what's in the coursework at all. We're just including charter schools that weren't included before and having the curriculum on the website, correct?
That is true.
You're
Thank you.
Okay, further discussion. We're on Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question's been called. Any objections to the previous question? We did. We did. We adopted it.
Yes.
Yeah, we adopted it. Okay, the question's been called. Any objection to the question? Seeing none, would the clerk please put the vote on the board for House Bill 1197? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 18 ayes and 0 nays.
House Bill 1197 moves out to calendar and rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Members, that brings us at 1:28. Health Committee is getting ready to start. We will be back in here at 9:30 in the morning. And until then, we are in recess till 9:30 tomorrow morning.